Finally I got done with this thing, and it turned out to be quite the project, getting all the pieces, finally finished out and all installed and working. And it turned out fairly good. I'm happy with the results. Of course, we've all seen the photo, of our hero Chet holding his Martin, back in the early days in 42 and 43. And so that's kind of what inspired me to get into this. Is that we've all seen the photos, but we haven't really heard, much of what it may have sounded like, that guitar, in those days. And of course, with Vib-Rolas being such a, I guess, an extinct, or it's very, very hard to find piece nowadays, makes it even that much more difficult. But even with that, I was able to make a lot of the parts that I didn't have, to come up with a complete unit that fit and functioned. Of course, it's not going to be 100% true to the original design. There's not much way to do that, and I don't even think I would want to do that if I could, or but basically I made this anchor out of thicker metal than the original would have had. And something I learned on the first one of these, on the D'Angelico project, it seems like the thicker the metal you've got here is, you have less problems with staying in tune. It seems like you have a little better tone, because you have a little more solid piece there to to anchor everything to. And of course, if this part moves, or if its metal is too thin, it's going to want to bend a little bit, and that's going to affect, the tuning, or the consistency, I should say. And so, that's probably an improvement, I think, over what it was originally, the original equipment. And these are all fairly old metals. They're in the 50-year-old range. These and this plate that I made, these are all 1960s era metals. And the stuff they were making then is not quite like what they're making today, as most of this stuff would have come out of the steel mills in Pennsylvania and Ohio. And this, by the way, came out of broadcasting equipment, and it has a lot higher nickel content than what you might buy at a hardware store. So I think that kind of added a little bit to its maybe its musical sound in some small way. It's just the quality of the metal that was used. And nowadays there's there's so much recycling and, you know, reusing going on, you know, you don't really know what you're getting. You know, you sort of have to take their word for it and hope that's what you're getting. These days, these earlier days, I guess from maybe the mid-60s on back, there wasn't that much of that going on. There was some, but, you know, you had a lot more, I guess, what you would call virgin metals, things that had came out of the ground that had not came through recycling or anything like that. I'm not saying that's bad or anything, but you tend to get a you know, a higher grade of metal or more pure grade of metal, you know, when you're not getting it from the recycling bin, if that makes any sense. That's just my theory. I don't know how right any of it is, but you know, you never see anybody making banjo tone rings out of recycled metal, so that may tell you a little hint right there. Anyhow, I have a little bit more to do, you know, in taking this thing apart and putting it back together. Found that this bridge is, it's not a rocking bridge. So, you know, when you operate this arm, this whole bridge has to move. You know, it's not going to rock like a Bigsby bridge would, say, for instance. Or I guess an earlier Gretsch bridge. Some of those are rocking bridges. Some rock better than others. if you're into Gretsch, you know what I'm talking about. So I do have a little problem here that I'm going to have to solve or maybe do something about to improve the, you know, when you operate this, you want it to come back, of course, to the same spot. And so there is a little bit of work to be done here, and the way this bridge is made, it has the two, I guess you'd call them jack screws here, you know, with the little thumb wheel to raise and lower each side with, and also it has a couple of wooden dowels here and here coming out the bottom of the saddle that sit in holes drilled into the top of the base. Now that may be a little bit of a trick right there, you know, and maybe I might have to, instead of having a, you know, a concentric dowel, I may have to sand those into a cone shape where it's bigger at the top and smaller at the bottom, and that would allow it, you know, not to move at the top so much, but to move a little bit on the bottom, and that would facilitate, you know, some of that rocking movement here. And of course with that you could take the bottom of this saddle and you round it on the bottom so it will, you know, come and go as the strings are moved when you operate the arm. So that's a little bit different of a challenge in the way that this bridge is made, and I'm a little bit afraid to mess with this original one, and I think I may go out on eBay or one of the online places and see if I can find just a, you know, just a bridge, another bridge like this to experiment on. And otherwise, surprisingly, the nut slots are already fairly wide. They're wide enough that they're not really causing any major problem with tuning. In fact, the fifth slot is a little too deep. I'm going to have to build that back up and file the slot down again to bring that string up a little bit. It tends to want to buzz when played open. You can hear that. See, that's clean. There you've got a little buzz because it's a little too low sitting in that slot. Anyway, let's see, what else did I have to do? Well, I moved this pickguard. I had to move it up about a ½ an inch to get some clearance here. And I looked at that, and the best solution I could come up with was this piece here, the little metal piece, is to come up under the bottom of it here and bend it this way about a ½ an inch. Because otherwise I would have had to sanded this back edge off, and you'd have to start right about here, you know, to get that contour right again. It'd look right. That's a lot of work to do that, and by moving the whole thing up a ½ an inch to get some clearance here, I can leave all of this alone. And if you can look real close, if the camera will cooperate, what I wound up doing is I drilled another hole here. I moved the whole pickguard up, and it's hanging over about 3/8 of an inch now. And it's going to be a whole lot easier to just cut this little end off right here. You know, that's fairly easy and doable because you won't have to come back any further than about here, you know, to get that contour right. So that kind of cut that down to size as far as the work involved in moving the pickguard to get a little more clearance back at the bridge. All in all, I'm very satisfied with how it turned out, and the sound is just wonderful. It has that old vibe, you know.